Hello, Giants fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. All right, have a little bit of a special treat for you guys today. I've been doing 7-round Giants mock drafts now for a couple of months, and you guys are probably sick and tired of reading my take on what the Giants could, should, would, might do on Sundays at Big Blue View. So here to help me with a little bit of draft information is Doug Farrar, veteran NFL draft analyst who's working for SB Nation these days. You can also find his stuff at Athlon Sports and at The Guardian. And Doug has a 7-round mock draft, Giants only mock that'll be up on Big Blue View on Wednesday morning. And that's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to pick that. We're going to pick that apart. So welcome to the torture chamber, Doug. How are you?
Nice. Yeah, I'm not doing my 7-round mock. Let's get someone even more ridiculous. Good plan, Ed.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
This, I'm sure.
And after all these years, I just wanted to say you and I finally met this year in Indianapolis.
We did. Yes, we did.
So
yeah. A lovely time. It was my 18th combine.
Wow, it was only my 7th. So I'm a relative newbie compared to you. So,
and we'll just say it as we always say: never move that thing out of Indy. Never.
Never. Please don't ever do that. I will stop going the minute that they do that.
There will be a riot.
I would certainly be one of the rioters. Anyway, let's get into the draft and the Giants. And before we even get into your mock, I have to ask you for your take on the recent intrigue with the Giants, with the late Thursday private workout for Shedeur Sanders. I mean, there pretty much the draft had kind of settled where everybody thought, the Giants are going to take either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, whoever's there at 3, and pass on Shedeur, and Shedeur might fall and, might go all the way to 21. Nobody knows for sure. But what do you make, just in your experience, what do you make of the late workout for Shedeur? Does it change anything in your mind about whether you think the Giants might take him at 3, whether they might trade back up for him, or is this just sort of standard operating procedure in your mind?
It really is kind of SOP. They're bringing in Tyler Shuck, the quarterback from Louisville, too. So I just read that. So it's right now, I mean, and Dane Brugler, who works for The Athletic and does the Beast every year, which is the draft guy you need. Trust me. Oh, my God, it's awesome. He brought up a really good point on the Athletic podcast last week. He said, no one's bringing a guy in for a 30 visit or a last-second workout because they're totally sure of him. The clean guys, they're not going to worry about. If you think that Tyler Warren is 100%, 10 out of 10, next Gronk, boom, you're not bothering with it. And people are shocked when it's like, oh, my God, they didn't even bring him in for a visit. They took him 5th overall. That's why. Right now, they're trying to get their, they have Russ, they have Jameis. It's, do we roll with this and put the needs elsewhere, as I did in my 7-round mock, spoiler alert? Or are we really convicted that, yeah, we need this guy? And even with the 2 interesting personalities in the room, we're going to bring the guy in. I don't know that unless they see something or hear something, or, one of these guys, Sanders or Shuck or someone else, says something like, oh, you know what? He is our guy. We were 90% there. Now after the visit, we're 100% there. Or maybe we're back to 50%. Like, ooh, he wasn't what we thought. So I don't think those last second workouts generally radically change things. You're just trying to get everything in order as much as you can before you make the pick.
Yeah, and you're right. The news broke just a little while ago that the Giants will host a private workout over the weekend, or will have a private workout with Tyler Shuck. It wouldn't be a big shock if they have one with Jalen Milroe as well at this
point.
Probably
not. Yeah. Well, as I said in the intro to the mock, I would love to see if Dable could do what he did for Allen for Milroe.
That would be interesting, and it's possible. But Doug, let's get into your mock.
Yeah.
7-round mock, as I said, that will appear on Big Blue View on Wednesday morning. And your round 1 pick at number 3 for the Giants is Travis Hunter, cornerback wide receiver out of Colorado. And I have to assume that meant, that does mean, because I'm reading right now, Cam Ward, Abdul Carter off the board.
Yeah.
Pretty much chalk pick for the Giants, which would be Travis Hunter. I'm curious, you talked in here about how folks that you've talked to believe that Hunter is more cornerback or better cornerback than wide receiver. So just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, which I agree with. I've talked to Richard Sherman about it. I've talked to Dick LeBeau about it. They know a few things more about football than I do. And they each said, yeah, in Sherm, and I've known Sherm for a very long, I've known Sherm since his rookie year up here in Seattle where I am. And he doesn't say things about cornerbacks like he said about Travis Hunter. I mean, he's like, there are things he does that are uncoachable, like elite traits right now. And Dick LeBeau told me last year when I had a chance to interview him for an hour, which of course was awesome. I'd put him on corner, and everyone says kind of the same thing. You give him packages, but to me, he's 90% corner, 10% receiver. And of course, you don't want to limit, you don't want to say no. You put him on the Sanders, what was it, 1996 plan where he had, a few targets and whatever with the Cowboys. But this, I mean, he is. It's insane. My comp for him as a receiver is DeAndre Hopkins. My comp for him as a cornerback is Darius Slay. And just think about how insane that is that one guy can be as good as those two guys. It's just nuts. But as a corner, he's good in press. He's good in off. He reads up to down as far as where the routes are going. He has a very good sense of when to break on things. His transition skills are smooth. He's not limited to press or off. And with the Giants, with the new regime post-Wink, they went from a lot of press to a lot of off. And I think that had some people sort of between and betwixt and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But, he's the best corner in this class. And they got Paulson Adebo in free agency, which was a great move. I think Adebo is one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the NFL when he's healthy. And I don't know what's going on with Deonte Banks. I don't think anyone does. Who I loved coming out of Maryland. I thought he was the best press corner in his class. Maybe the fact that they don't play a lot of press is the problem. But I think you bring in Hunter. You have Hunter and Adebo. You have your bookend corners outside. I mean, that's just so important for any team.
Absolutely. The one thing about Hunter is I do feel like maybe for the first couple of years he can do one way as a full-time or close to full-time guy and then packages the other way. But I do think as his career unfolds, like happens with a lot of these guys, I feel like he's going to have to declare one way or the other. What is he? Is he a corner? Is he a wide receiver? I feel like as you get older, you may not be able to do quite as much on both sides of the ball.
True. Well, your acumen takes over for your athleticism. Ideally that curve sort of switches. Mm-hmm. So if you need a little more time in the room watching tape on one side of the ball, yeah, that could very well be a thing.
All right, let's go to round 2, and this is a very interesting pick for me.
I was shocked.
One that, and you didn't do a full 7-round mock where you did every pick of every player. You used the Pro Football Focus simulator, just so folks know that this is a choice you were presented with. Yep. And you're right. I would say the same thing. I'm shocked that this player is available. And you took Michigan tight end Colston Loveland at 34. And I have not seen him available anywhere.
Yeah, that was kind of a laugh. That was an LOL moment. And it's a light room at that position. I think overall you have, obviously Neighbors is an alpha receiver. He's going to be top 5 if he isn't already. Mm-hmm. They got Darius Slayton came back, which was kind of a surprise to some people. Like, okay, I guess they talked him back in the room. And with Loveland, you get and he's not the blocker that Tyler Warren is. I do think he's a better route runner. I think he's done more in a more Travis or yeah with Warren. It's more. It's almost Gronky. I'm not comparing him to Gronk, who may be overall the best tight end ever, but there's that element of I can just get open and Godzilla the corner or the safety or the linebacker, and I'm just going to make this happen. Loveland is more nuanced, a little more practiced, but he can line up anywhere in the formation and just get open and great downfield guy. So now you have Neighbors and Slayton who can get open downfield. Now you have this guy too. I mean, that can only benefit whoever the quarterback is, obviously.
Was there a quarterback available at that spot? Do you remember as you?
Oh yeah, there was Milrow was there. I think Dart was there, and I like Dart, but if I'm looking at Loveland at 34, I'm like, because if you're taking a quarterback in the early second round, you're basically making a first round commitment.
Mhm.
And if you're taking a guy that high, remember Lamar was the last pick in the first round in his draft. If you're taking a quarterback yes, it's a second round pick, but it's a high second pick. It's basically a first round commitment. You have to give that guy a little more time in the sun. So you have to be really convicted that he's your guy. And the reason I didn't make every pick is because I wanted to be presented with, okay, I didn't want to be able to skew the options in my own favor as I went along. I like to randomize every other team so that I don't get the guy I want necessarily.
Right.
In this case, I did, and I would have taken Loveland over any of the quarterbacks at that point because in this particular class, the way it shakes down as far as overall quarterback quality, I wasn't convicted that I'd get more out of any of these guys, especially early on, than I would have out of Loveland.
You said Dart was there. You said Milrow was there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you said Shuck was there, but had
I
you
believe
gone,
so.
had you
I,
gone, had you gone quarterback for the Giants, which guy do you go with at
I
that
mean,
point?
I like Dart the best. Sanders was gone. Obviously, Ward was gone. I like Dart the best of those three. So I would have gone Dart in that case. And to me, he's on the periphery as far as overall, just how I would grade him as a player, probably mid-second round, which is not
Mhm.
horrible. But as you know, quarterbacks tend to get drafted about a round up from where their skills are, except in this draft, I don't think that's going to be the case because it's the class has been downgraded so often and so much.
Mhm.
So in this case, I could see the quarterbacks just kind of falling more to, there have been those drafts where they just kind of fall to where they maybe sort of should, as opposed to we're going to inflate the value because of the position.
Okay. So let's go to your third pick, and you picked um, offensive guard Tate Ratledge out of Georgia.
Love him.
Um,
Love
this a
this guy.
pick. This a pick that I like. I don't know. My particular when I look at Ratledge, I don't know how high the ceiling is in terms of can this guy be an All Pro? Can he be a consistent Pro Bowl guy? But I think he's going to start in the league for a very long time if he's healthy. And
Yeah.
obviously for the Giants, it's a position, Joe Shane has said again and again, the one position that is quote unquote open on their line is a guard spot.
Yep.
So I like this pick a lot. Just talk to me about Ratledge. Do you think there's Pro Bowl all pro ceiling there?
Well, first, when I went back and I made the point about Greg Van Roten and the 7 sacks he gave up last year, and when I see that on Pro Football Focus, I don't just put that down and say, "Oh, okay, give us that." I want to see what happened. So I watched all 7 sacks. It was brutal. I mean, it was bad. So sorry, Greg. I don't want to slam players, but the tape says what the tape says. I think Ratledge can be a Pro Bowl level guard over time. It's funny because he described himself as a dirtbag, but he doesn't always play that way. I mean, the way I describe him is he's a nice combination of technician and mauler. He will get in your face, he will get nasty, he has the potential to put you on your back and do the cockroach block things and all that. But he's also very good in inside and outside zone. He will use his technique to seal the edge to give a running back the inside or outside gap. He's very good in slides and slide protection and things like that. He is a little over 6'6", 308. So he's not one of these Tyler Booker, who was the left guard. He's more, if you just want a guy who's going to fire out man and demolish people, that's Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker is a dump truck, and I mean that in a very complimentary way. Ratledge is a little more, I don't want to say finesse, but there's a little more nuance and technique in the way he has to do things to get things done. So I like the combination with Ratledge of the guy who can blow you up, but the guy who can also dance with you and put you in a place where you just don't want to be. But overall, I love his demeanor. I love the play style. I love the Kenny Powers mullet. I mean, what's not the guy looks like he looks like an offensive guard. If you saw him walking down the street, oh yeah, he's an offensive guard. Of course he is.
There you go. At 99, I suppose chalk for the Giants. You took Ratledge at 3.
Yep.
Most of the folks, at my website would look at the pick that you made, which I'll mention in a second, and say it's not a defensive tackle. You haven't taken a defensive tackle in the first 4 picks.
One a lot later who's good, who could be the steal of the draft.
I know you do, and we will get to that. But you took at 99, you took Damien Martinez, running back out of Miami. And before I let you, explain that pick a little bit, one of my favorite draft guides, one of my favorite draft people is Matt Waldman of the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. Sure. And Martinez is a guy who Waldman basically says, whoever takes this kid is going to wind up looking very, very smart.
Yeah.
So just talk about Martinez a little bit.
Well, and Matt's a very zen. I've known Matt for years. He's a very zen guy. He's very calm and just very cool. And I admire that because I'm not always that way. But I'll say this, for your own internal zen, never hate anyone or anything as much as Damien Martinez hates being tackled. This guy, if you try to tackle him, he takes that stuff personally. And this was, Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary, Eric Gray last year. It was, Martinez.
I do like Tyrone Tracy. I do think he's a good player.
He's a good back. I mean, all these guys are good backs for what they are, but at a certain point, you need a sustainer in that run game. And Martinez came close to or matched or exceeded the entire Giants trio of running backs statistically in everything, not carries. They had a lot more carries, but as far as yards per carry, yards after contact per carry, missed tackles forced, runs of 15 or more yards. They had 7 fumbles to his 1. When Damien Martinez gets the ball, it's like one of those spring-loaded devices where the spring's a little off, and it's like everything runs, and then all of a sudden it explodes all over the place. And when you try and tackle Damien Martinez, that's when the explosion happens. It's not a pleasant experience for you, Mr. Defender. I think he comes in, he wants to deliver the blow before he would take it. He's that kind of back. I mean, Walter Payton is the standard for that, and I'm obviously not comparing to Walter Payton, but he brings that absolute, and I think Ratledge brings this mindset too. A lot of these guys bring this mindset where it's just, if you want to tackle me, brother, you are going to have to earn it because I'm not going to make it easy for you. And he was one of my more fun players to watch from that perspective. It's like, 15-yard running just blew up 5 guys. We ran over 3 guys on that play. It's just constant with him. So I think the reason he's not thought of as a, Gianti or Omarion Hampton or that level that the Ohio State guys, there is a limit. It's like a 4th gear. He's not going to accelerate downfield, but I think with the Giants run game, they got to start somewhere. And it's the guy who can get you from 0 to, say, 12 yards.
Okay.
On 3rd and 7, can he get you 8? And I think this guy can more than anyone else they have on the roster right now.
Okay, cool. So, I do think the Giants have paid a lot of attention to running backs throughout the pre-draft process. I think I don't know if it'll be Martinez. I don't know if at some point it would be Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, since they just hired Iowa's running backs coach.
Yeah, it's a
to
good
be their
point,
running backs
and Caleb
coach?
Johnson is kind of that same player where there isn't a 5th gear, but he will just yeah, I could see that because
Mhm.
it's that same kind of back where it's
Right,
not, "Oh, another 60-yard gain." He's not explosive in that
right,
regard, but he's more thunderous than, he's more the thunder
right,
than the lightning.
right. I think they're taking a back at some point.
Yeah.
I think they've pretty much telegraphed that much just with some of the
And
interest that
Tracy's a
they've
good player.
shown.
He's also a former receiver. I mean, he was productive
Mhm.
as a receiver at Iowa, and I didn't even think that was possible. So he's a good player. They just need different types of guys in their run game.
Yeah, what's really interesting about Tracy is he's a former wide receiver who doesn't catch the ball all that well, interestingly enough.
Some
But
guys, as George Carlin once said, some people need practical advice.
all right, round 4, 105, Jacob Parish, cornerback out of Kansas State. Interesting one to me, especially since you took Travis Hunter, uh, in the first round, and you have him pegged, as a cornerback. So uh, tell us about Parrish. On a need scale, I'm not sure that this is a big need for the Giants. I would assume you look at it as a value pick.
It's a value pick and it's a need pick. I think if you have 2 cornerbacks you can trust, that's not enough. And I don't, and again, I don't know what's going on with Deontay Banks. Maybe they have him in a place where everyone's feeling good and everyone's happy about it. If that's the case, maybe you go a different way. I made
Hmm.
this pick assuming 2 things. It's not going well with Banks, and Shane Bowen's going to want to play more press because he didn't do that a lot last year. The Giants had no corners in press coverage on 67% of their snaps last season, which was 3rd most in the league behind the Panthers and the Chargers. And I don't know that there's always if you are not going to play press, okay, are you doing the Gus Bradley country cover 3 stuff? Because that doesn't work anymore. That's throw that out the window. You have to be able to match and get guys across and take them wherever they go in their routes. One reason I like Parrish is he can also play the slot. I mean, he's an outside guy,
Hmm.
5'10, 191. So he's at the threshold of outside and slot. And another thing I like about Parrish, and I saw this more than once, and this is really hard to do. When you have inside receivers who are running 2-way goes in slot, it's so hard to press because you never know where these guys are going, especially if they're motioning into the slot. Imagine trying to press a guy when he's motioning into your area, like, okay, and it's that burst motion, that CFL thing where you're still motioning at the snap. Well, how do I press him now? I don't even know where the hell he's going. Um, Parrish, I think, would fit as an inside outside guy. So if you want to play him more in the slot, I think that works. But as far as okay, we have 2 outside cornerbacks, we're fine. I think if you do that in today's NFL, you're making a big mistake.
Okay. And your 5th round pick for the Giants, Doug, let's get to that. You took wide receiver out of Arkansas, Isaac. I think it's pronounced TeSlaa
To
or
slay, yeah.
TeSlaa.
Let's
Okay.
say let's say to slay.
And
Uh,
just what do you like about him? I see he's a big guy, 6'4", 214.
yep.
So tell us a little bit about his skill set.
Very good slot receiver, very good 3rd down receiver. And when I found this stat a few months ago, it was actually in season, and I kind of tracked it. Wan'Dale Robinson was the NFL's most targeted receiver on 3rd down last year. It did
Hmm.
not go well. It did not go well. 58 targets, caught 34, 29% success rate, and 2 explosive plays. TeSlaa had overall 28 passes on 36 targets. Not a huge volume, but he caught 8 passes on 11 targets on 3rd down for a 64% success rate and 4 explosive plays. This guy off the snap he's screaming off the snap. So now you have Neighbors, you have Slayton, and you have this guy. You can run vertical concepts because when you have fast receivers who can also run routes and Slay can run routes, it's not just, oh, we're going verts all the way because Loveland is also a vertical guy. You're setting your defense. I mean, and then we go back to if you just have 2 corners, well, if you have a 3-by-1 and a tight end who can also, 3 receivers and a tight end and everyone's going vertical, you got to have 4 corners on the field. So you need more corners too. But especially you bring him in with what they would have elsewhere. And I think it gives you a ton of interesting things you can do with the passing game. And this is a guy who can also, he can make he's not afraid of traffic. He will make the more, the slants and intermediate stuff like that. But I like him as you go back to Victor Cruz. We all remember that name, of course, as a speed slot, dangerous target. I think he could be kind of that similar guy.
Okay. And I'll put both of your 7th round picks into one bucket. And the first thing I will say is that I love what you did here because one of my theories, it's an old George Young theory, which is sort of when in doubt, you take a hog molly or a guy in the trenches, you take a big guy, and especially at the tail end of the draft.
Yep.
Because you need more of those guys than any other position, and you can find them this late. And I happen to really love both of the guys that you picked here. You took at first pick in the 7th round for the Giants, 219. You took Holland Pierce out of Rutgers, kid that I actually had a chance to talk to a couple of months ago for the podcast, and I love the kid's story. And then you took. You can talk about both of them together. Yeah. You took Ty Robinson, defensive tackle out of Nebraska at 246, and I'm looking at this going.
Ty Robinson.
I've taken Ty Robinson. I've taken him at 99 in some mock drafts. I'm like, how is he sitting there?
Pro Football Focus at some point because there's no way in hell he should be in the 7th round. There's no way. Right. So I don't know what the mock draft simulator over there has against him, but whoa. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Holland Pierce, 6'8" and 3/8, 341 pounds. He he's come back from a lot. His mom died in 2012, I believe. He went through some understandable depression, got up to 445 pounds in high school, shaved it off, got into football hardcore, was sending out his own videos to different programs to just try and get a bite from someone. And Rutgers said, yeah, we'll take a shot. And yes, at that size, it's like 99th percentile everything since 1999 for offensive linemen in the history of college football, going back to 99. And yes, when you're that big, first of all, he carries his weight well. It's not like it's all not in the gut. It's not like he's going to fall over because of the body fat. He is able to keep that weight on his frame in a good way. I tend to think that will improve even more as he gets into an NFL conditioning program. He's susceptible to quick movements, inside counters, and fakes and stunts to a point, but he wasn't giving up like 7 or 8 sacks a season. And the point I made in the mock is everyone remembers the Giants selected Eric Flowers in 2015. And I think it was Coughlin who was comparing him to a battleship and an aircraft carrier. And the problem was that's about how agile he was. It didn't work out. Right. This guy's a lot more agile than that. If he was just standing there, putting his hands out, and that's all he could do, I wouldn't have put him on here. But I was actually impressed with the tape for the size. I don't know that he'll ever be a starting left or right tackle in the NFL. Maybe. But I think a swing guy, and he is able to use the size in an advantageous position because sometimes he'll just put his arms out and go bang, and you're not going anywhere near the quarterback. It's just not happening because it's quick game, and you simply can't get around this man's arms quickly enough because you're in the next zip code at that point. So the more I watched his tape, the more I'm just like, you know what? I can't. He's unusual, and I really couldn't talk myself out of it once I was in.
Well, one of those things, Doug, one of the things that people always tell me is that especially as you get into day 3 and you get deeper and deeper into the draft, you're looking for players because they're not perfect players at that point. There's flaws you can pick apart. Yeah. You start picking apart guys in the first round, but you're looking for those guys with that one thing that's like, whoa, I can build with that, or I
Yeah.
can work with that. And Holland Pierce is, as you said, almost 6'9", 340 some pounds. And, he's a massive human with long arms. He's got physical traits, he's got crazy physical traits to work with, whether
Yeah.
they can. So that's the kind of guy you take a swing on
Yeah, for the position, I'd say he has
for
what
the
I call
position.
useful size. It's not just
Hmm.
a big guy with long arms. He has useful
Right.
size. It's it's packed well on his frame, and it's not going to be a
Hmm.
problem per se.
Right. And Ty Robinson, let's talk about him a little bit.
I love
I
this
don't
one.
I don't know that third round is too early for him. It might be, but to find him in the seventh round, that's one of those things where, people always say, oh, so and so won't go at that point in the draft. Well,
We've
just
all been
because
surprised before.
we've all been surprised before, you just never know.
Yeah.
So
So
I
I
mean,
would
where
agree.
would you have expected to find him?
I would say third to fourth round talent.
Hmm.
6'5", a little over 6'5", 288. So he's kind of a tweener, but I haven't used that word in years because hybrid fronts are all the rage.
Hmm.
He lined up all over the place. 6 sacks, 42 total pressures, 25 solo tackles, 28 stops. And he's not there. There are a couple of guys, a couple of defensive tackles who are highly rated, who I watched pretty extensively because when I start watching a prospect and I don't like him, I will watch the guys I don't like more than the guys I do like because I want to get to the third or fourth game that changes my mind or not. And there are guys in this draft, guys at interior defensive linemen who are going to go first, second round. I thought I never really saw you beat a double team. I never saw you just log roll a guy. Okay, you read a gap. Okay, you went around. Okay, you were the looper on a stunt and you took advantage. Good for you. You do that against, 4 out of the 5 guys on that line are never going to come near the NFL. I don't know how that works at the next level. With Ty Robinson, this guy was constantly pushing, pushing, pushing. I love his play demeanor. He is desperate to get to the quarterback and he wants to embarrass you on the way there. So he's not a big guy per se, but I think, the rotation alongside Dexter Lawrence, who I believe is the best defensive player in football and certainly the most unique player in
Hmm.
football. Not a lot of guys who are 340 and can do what he does. They have, Roberts and Harris, and I like all the guys they have in the rotation, but I don't think there's one dominant guy. I think Ty Robbins could come in on some lighter fronts, and maybe he's an edge guy in a rotation. Maybe you're a 5-man front. He can be an end or edge backer. He can play one or two positions. I just think if you get this guy in your group after a couple of years, why did we miss on Ty Robinson? That he's the type of player you ask that question about. Maybe
Right.
he's not ever spectacular, but it's just 4 or 5 sacks and 40 or 50 total pressures every year.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a Pro Bowl or two, and if everything
Right.
if the stars align, like he lasted until the 7th round. What the hell?
Yeah.
But it could happen in this defensive tackle class. It really could happen because it's just so deep. Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to last past the 4th round, but as you said, we've all been surprised before. I just love the tape. I love the play demeanor. He did very well at the combine. I think everything points to success in the NFL. The level of success, the extent to which he's able to be, one of those transcendent guys, I don't know. But
Hmm.
there are guys, and I always think of Denico Autry as there are guys you get on your defensive line and they just sort of hold the line together. They're the glue. I could see him being that.
Yeah. When I look at him, and I am not a scout, but when I look at him a little bit, I see an energy guy
Yes.
who loves it,
Yep.
and who's just, whoever's in front of him is just in the way, and it doesn't matter. He's going to do whatever he's got to do.
I just, I technique, yeah, but football is also a physical endeavor, and I want guys who can come into the game with the intent to physically embarrass the opponent and can actually pull it off. That stands out to me because it's not easy to do. It's
Mhm.
easier to beat a guy with technique than it is to just grown man him out of the way because, especially in the NFL, the guy across from you is, maybe he's a little worse, maybe he's the same, maybe he's a little better, maybe he's a lot better. But the swing in talent is so much more pronounced in college football, obviously, than it is in the NFL. So I like a guy who's always his phasers are always set to stun in a physical sense. I think that really helps you at the next level.
I like that. I like the phasers are always set to stun line. I like that a lot. You'll have to
I
use
mean,
that again. I'll
if
have to
you
use
want
it somewhere.
if you want an encapsulation of his play style, that'd be a good place to start.
Absolutely. Hey, Doug, I appreciate this. This was fun, folks. This will be on our website on Wednesday morning, the full mock with Doug's explanations, and hopefully we'll do it again. And hopefully you keep cranking stuff out for SB Nation's NFL page. It's always good stuff.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Ed. And yeah, we're counting it down. And best of luck in your exploits up to and through the draft. And we'll see you on the other side.
And yeah, maybe we'll see you. Maybe we'll see you in Indy again next year. We'll have to find some. We'll have to find some fun adventures to go on again next
I
year.
will. I will absolutely be there.
All right, Giants fans, thank you as always for watching. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.